everyone, if you don't know me, I want to get to know you personally before I tell you my very personal story with depression. My name is Kristen. I am a senior in college. This is my 5th year in college. I'm from California. I'm from the Valley part of California. It's really hot all the time. It's not that great. I am 22 years old. I'm very passionate about mental health awareness. That's why I'm telling you my depression story today. I have 1 cat. My favorite color is gray. Okay, we know each other now. Now I can tell you my most private and personal secrets, and I hope you enjoy. Talking about your mental health is so incredibly important. Not only does it help you and your own emotions and what you're feeling, but it also helps others around you know that it's okay to talk about mental health. When I started talking about my own mental health, a lot of my family and friends around me started talking about theirs and coming out and telling me things that they did when they were teenagers that they're not too proud of, or what they're doing now and how they're feeling now. We're more close on an emotional level. I like that, and that's why I tell my story, so others can relate to me, as well as others can be inspired by me just talking about depression or me talking about my mental health or my anxiety or whatever. Today I want to tell you about my depression when I was a teenager. I wrote some notes down on my phone when I was at the bus stop today because this is a spur of the moment video. I am going to be talking about depression, anxiety, mental health related stuff. I am not going into any triggering detail because that's not going to help anyone. That's just going to trigger people. I'm going to vaguely discuss topics like self-harm, like depression, anxiety, abuse, things like that, but I'm not going to go into any detail. So if any of those things trigger you or make you uncomfortable, just know I'm not going into any detail, but they are part of my story, so I will discuss them a little bit. Growing up, I didn't grow up in a traditional family. I grew up in many different homes. From my dad, I lived with my mom, I lived with my grandmother, I lived with my aunt. My parents got divorced when I was 5. I was born in California and I moved to Florida when I was 5. My dad divorced my mother when we were in Florida, and he remarried this horrible, awful woman when I was maybe 7. This woman was very emotionally abusive and physically abusive to my brother and I. She was absolutely terrible to me as a child, and I blame her for a lot of my self-esteem issues for when I was very, very young. Normally when you grow up, you learn about body positivity and self-esteem through your parents, and they teach you what's right, what's wrong, what's good to feel, what's not good to feel. From a very young age, I was brought up to believe that my looks were bad, I was very unintelligent, everything I said or did was wrong. That's a really toxic thing to think when you are very, very young. I moved back to California and lived with my grandmother when I was in 4th grade, and from 4th grade up until high school, I never felt right. All of my friends had parents who loved each other. They had traditional families, the 2 parents, the 2 kids, and a dog, and a white picket fence, and it's beautiful. I never had that. I never had that. And when I was a teenager and growing up when I did, it was really abnormal for you to live in a family that's not a traditional family. So I always felt like I was charity, like I didn't belong anywhere, and people were just letting me live in their house because they had to. I know now that that's not the case, but when you're very young, you do not understand these types of things. I thought my family hated me. I felt like a waste of space. I felt useless. Was diagnosed with depression when I was in 8th grade. I was probably depressed before then, but I was diagnosed when I was in 8th grade. And it was really hard. I remember calling my mom after the doctor diagnosed me and told me I'm just depressed. My mom cried on the phone, my dad cried on the phone, and they both said it was their fault. And to hear that as a teenager, to hear that you feel like you and how you feel affects everyone else, and I blamed myself for making my parents cry. It's my fault I have depression. I blame myself so much, and I feel like that's a common theme in my life is I get depressed when I don't live up to my parents or my loved one's standards. I don't want to let anyone down, and if I do, I blame myself so much. Also in high school, I had a lot of friend problems. Either I didn't have any friends for some reason or another. No one liked me, or I would lie. I've never said this in a video, and I've never told my friend this in high school, but I really hope that if any of my friends are watching this, from high school. I really hope that you understand where I'm coming from and understand what happened back then is not me right now. I lied a lot to get attention. And attention was something that I craved because I wasn't getting any attention at home. And because I felt so out of place and so useless, I started self-harming for attention. I know it's a big misconception of, you know, you're not a real self-harmer, whatever that means, if you self-harm for attention. Well, I started self-harming for attention. I did. I lied to my friends all the time from 8th grade up until senior year, first year of college. I was such a liar. I just wanted their attention. And my friends did not like that. They saw right through me. They knew I was lying about, you know, I wasn't lying about a lot of things. I did lie about little things. I would self-harm, show my self-harm off. I'm sorry, this is just part of my story and I'm just flowing with it. I had something called attachment disorder. I'll put it up on the screen, the official diagnosis, but I was diagnosed by my counselor at the time, therapist, by having an attachment disorder, which means I clung to people. In high school, I had a lot of bad relationships because of the attachment that I felt. I feel like this came from my dad passing away when I was a junior, and after that things started going downhill after my dad passed away. It was a long stream of bad relationships with boys. I got into my first emotionally abusive relationship when I was a junior in high school going into being a senior. That whole summer, which was only 5 months after my dad passed away, this boy would control me emotionally, and it was probably one of the hardest relationships I've had. I would love to do a video on abuse and the abuse that I went through in my relationships because it's so important to talk about. But so I was in an emotionally abusive relationship with that boy. A year later, I was in a very bad place. Because of all this, because of the abuse, I felt so empty inside. I felt used. I felt like trash. I felt like I would never live up to anyone's standards. I felt like nobody loved me. And then I got into another relationship, same thing, emotionally abusive and physically abusive. And that was really hard. It took me so long to get over that. And because of that, I was very suicidal my first year of college. Because friends moved away, my support system left me, and I'm here having to deal with all of these mistakes that I made in high school, and I just didn't care about myself. If you've ever been suicidal, if you've ever have felt depression, you feel so alone. And I felt so incredibly alone. Engaged in a lot of reckless behavior, sleeping around, getting in bad relationships, a lot of suicidal thoughts, a lot of I wanted to jump off bridges. I remember one of the main things that I thought about was when I was driving my car home from the emotionally abusive boy that I was dating at the time, I wanted to drive my car off a cliff or into traffic, and these thoughts consumed me, and I thought about him all the time. Suicide was always the one thing I thought about. I was consumed by it. I didn't care if I lived or died. I hurt so much. And thinking about it now, there's nothing that compares to what I felt then, because I felt horrible. I had an eating disorder in high school as well. I put this in my notes. I totally forgot about this, but this is also very important. I had an eating disorder when I was in high school around my junior year because the emotionally abusive boy thought, we didn't think, he stated a lot that I was fat. So all I would eat all day was coffee, because coffee woke me up in the morning, and that is all I had for about, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks at that point. That was the worst part. You know, before it was, I only ate dinner with my parents, with my loved one that I lived with. But then it was, I only drank coffee. For some reason, that was the thing, until I collapsed at band practice. I had so much pain. I was crying that night. I was in so much pain, and I had to go to the emergency room and get fluids pumped into me, and it was horrible. Anyway, how did I get out of this suicidal thoughts? How did I do it? I went to therapy and I talked about it. That was one part of healing. I openly talked about my self-harm in therapy, which was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I was always hiding it from my counselors. I would never want to talk about it, but I did openly talk about self-harm, and to do that with someone else was the biggest thing I've ever had to do, and it felt so good to let someone else know what was going on behind closed doors, because what I was doing, I was just ruining my body, and she put it so well and gave me so many coping skills when I opened up. I'm sorry, I'm crying. It's so loud outside. I know a lot of you are not religious, and I'm not pushing religion on you, but if you are religious, or if you were brought up religious in any way, shape, or form, whatever religion, I prayed so much. I have my little crosses here, look at that, and I prayed for something to change inside of me. I learned that God does not give us exactly what we want. He doesn't do that. God gives us the opportunities to change ourselves. If we pray to be rich, He'll give us the opportunities and give us the opportunities for success to get rich, like going to school, doing well in a job interview. He doesn't just give us money. And so I prayed, God, please give me something, give me some help. I also went on to YouTube because at that time I was so lonely, I didn't know what else to do. I found YouTubers like Laura Lejeune, Katie Morton, Depression to Expression, Melissa C. Water, Lollies and Siggies. What else did I watch? I watched this other girl, I do not remember her name, but I watched her a lot. And a lot of other channels that are now taken down. Watched so many videos on reaching out for help. I watched so many videos on depression stories. I watched so much, and they gave me the courage to know that recovery from depression, from suicidal thoughts, and from self-harm is possible. And I had the power within me to do it, to reach out for help, to talk to somebody, to do my coping skills, to get out of these relationships that are bad and toxic in my life, and to live a happy life. They taught me that, and I'm here today because of them. I changed my support system. I took toxic people out of my life. I finally got into a good relationship with an amazing boy, and we are gonna celebrate our 3-year anniversary like in a few weeks, and I need to start working on that. And I took control of my life because I know that I'm strong enough to get through this, and I am not a waste of space. And what happened to me in the situations that I put myself into, they're not my fault. I was hurting and vulnerable, and I can forgive myself and the people in those situations. So like Kristen happened. I started my mental health YouTube channel 2 years ago. I started talking openly about my mental health, and because of that, people in my life started opening up, you guys started opening up, and I opened up more. And that's why I'm telling you guys my story today. Today I know that my family loves me, and they don't think of me as a charity. They love me so much. They do. Whew, you can see me crying in this video, it's great. They have my back, they're here to help me, and they love me so much. And if I opened up to them when I was a teenager, I know I would have gotten help. I know that they would have gotten me through this and told me that they loved me, because they did, and they still do. I know that I'm worth love, and I'm allowed to love others, and that's a great feeling. And I want to help others come out on the other side like I am. I'm still in recovery. I still suffer with self-harm thoughts, with suicidal thoughts sometimes when I'm low, but I have my coping skills now, and I have the support system to talk to someone. If you are depressed, or if you think that you're suffering with any type of depression or mood disorder or anything mental health related, I want you to know that you are not alone, and that it's okay to reach out for help. There is no shame in it at all. Reach out to your parents, reach out to a friend, reach out to a teacher, a priest, a religious figure, a freaking police officer, I don't know, who's ever in your support system. Reach out to them. Tell them, hey, I have something important to talk about, and I would really need your support, and open up to them. Depression is something really, really hard to recover from, but if you reach out, get into therapy, talk to someone, or just open up in your own personal life, things can get a lot better. And I'm telling you, it gets better. I'm here 3 years later. I'm alive. I didn't kill myself. I wanted to kill myself. And if I did that, I wouldn't have done a lot of things. I wouldn't have gone to Coldplay 2 days ago, and that was one of the things I've always wanted to do my entire life. And I cried so much during that concert. I don't care. My feelings are valid. I'm allowed to cry whenever I want to. And I was crying of happiness And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I killed myself 3 years ago. Yeah, I wouldn't have been singing my favorite song with Coldplay, even though I wasn't really singing. I was singing with like 40,000 other people. But I don't care. I don't care. I was happy. I was singing with Chris Martin. There will be links down below to suicide prevention websites. If you are in a crisis, there's a suicide prevention hotline down below, as well as a lot of other really good resources. Please stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.